What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta have a talk. We gotta talk about a name that carries weight, a name that carries fear, respect, and controversy. To be real with you, a name that still splits the black community right down the middle. I'm talking about Larry Hoover Sr., the man, the myth, the movement, and now the federal commutation. But hold on, this ain't no fairy tale. This ain't no street legend you put on a shirt and romanticize. This is complicated, this is painful, and if you black in America, this one right here hits a little different.
Investigates what will happen next to Chicago gang kingpin and killer Larry Hoover 24 hours after his life sentences were erased by President Trump.
Now, Hoover is being processed out of the federal supermax prison in Colorado and into an Illinois prison where he is expected to ask for parole from a 200-year state sentence. Our investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy on the story has some answers for us tonight. Chuck?
Allison, at age 74, gangland leader Larry the King Hoover has spent most of his life behind bars. Tonight, if history holds true, prison is where Hoover will spend the remainder of his life. Hoover cannot leave his past, is what the Illinois Prisoner Review Board said just 3 years ago when he asked for parole. And most of the same people that said no to Hoover then will make the decision now. Larry Hoover had already been arrested more than a dozen times when he kidnapped and killed a drug dealer in this Englewood alley in 1973. William Pookie Young shot between the eyes, dead at age 25 for stealing drugs from Hoover's gangster disciple street gang. Hoover sentenced to 200 years in state prison. He would later be convicted of numerous federal crimes as the leader of a murderous drug gang spanning 36 states and commanding a criminal army of 30,000 soldiers. With this stroke of a pen by President Trump yesterday, Hoover's 6 federal life sentences were commuted. His son thankful tonight.
I think he's been a political prisoner because of the power that he possesses.
When Larry Hoover leaves the Supermax prison here in Colorado, where he has been in solitary confinement, it will be in the custody of Illinois officers who will return him to a maximum security state prison. But in Illinois, Hoover is eligible for parole and return to the streets, a benefit that was denied him numerous times, most recently in late 2022. The parole board noting Hoover's role in this riot at Pontiac Prison in 1978 and his use of a decoding dictionary in his cell in 2017, seeming to support the belief that Hoover has continued to run gang rackets from jail, despite his promise that he's been reformed. According to the 2022 Illinois parole denial, Hoover's past continues to impact his present and will forever affect his future. Parole release at this time would not be in the interest of public safety. What all this means tonight is that Trump's commutation won't matter, and Hoover won't be released, according to this former longtime Illinois Parole Board member and chairman.
I think it's all symbolic, and I think it's all just drama because the president well knows that Mr. Hoover isn't going anywhere and that he's not going to be released. He's not going to be given freedom. He's got to come back and fulfill his Illinois sentence. I think he's trying to impress his friends, Kanye West, other celebrities who have been pushing for this pardon, but it's a Pyrrhic victory. He, at the end of the day, isn't going anywhere.
Just a couple years ago, when Hoover last came up for parole, the state board denied release by a vote of 10-1. That single parole board member on Hoover's side is no longer on the board, but a majority of the others are, and they voted against Hoover's release less than 3 years ago. This time, they will be the only people standing between Hoover and freedom.
Larry Hoover was born in 1950 in Jackson, Mississippi. But his story, it wasn't written in no southern church pew. Nah, his story got etched into the streets of Chicago. And if you know Chicago, then you know that's not a place for the faint of heart. He co-founded the Gangster Disciples, a street organization that would eventually grow into one of the biggest gangs in America. Not just in Chicago, not just in Illinois, I'm talking coast to coast. And Larry Hoover, he wasn't just a foot soldier, he was the CEO. He ran it like a corporation, ranks, rules, discipline. But let's not get it twisted. That organization was built on blood, dope, and domination. In 1973, William Pookie Young, 19 years old, a drug dealer, yes, but a human being first, shot to death on Hoover's orders. Why? Because allegedly Pookie stole from the GDs. Now look, I'm not here to debate street code, but that young man's life was erased over money. Hoover was sentenced to 150 to 200 years in state prison. And you would think that'd be the end of it. See, while most men would have crumbled behind those walls, Hoover started building. But really, it was just the beginning. And I'm not talking about educational programs, not yet. I'm talking about an operation, a nationwide ring of dope, intimidation, and violence, all directed from inside the state prison. From a prison payphone, this man was still making moves, still calling shots, and still raking in millions. And don't let the growth and development talk fool you. Yes, the organization was rebranded. Yes, there were attempts to push peace, education, and community work. But in the eyes of the feds, that was just a camouflage. They hit him again, this time with a federal case. Money laundering, drug conspiracy, and extortion. 1997. 6 life sentences. ADX Florence Supermax, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Lockdown 23 hours a day. No phone calls, no sunlight, no mercy. And now, here we are, 2025. President Trump, in a move that shocked half the country and had the other half throwing their hands up, commuted Larry Hoover's federal life sentence. And who was behind it? Alice Marie Johnson, a woman who herself did time and is now the pardon czar for President Trump. And Ye West, yes, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, the same man who put Larry Hoover Jr. on his Donda album to plead his dad's case. Now, Hoover's out of federal custody. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because he's not walking out that prison gate. Not yet. Not even close. Larry Hoover is still serving a 200-year prison sentence in Illinois for the 1973 murder of Pookie Young. And that right there is the wall between him and freedom. A president can commute a federal sentence, but he cannot touch a state sentence. So now the fight turns to the governor of Illinois. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see that happening. Not in a state that's still trying to repair from the damage that Hoover left behind. Not in a city that still got young kids out here dying over a flag that he designed. See, this is the part that hurts, because I'm torn. On one side, I see a man who did real harm, a man who built a legacy in blood. But on the other side, I see a man who's done 50 years in prison. I see a man by all accounts who has evolved, who speaks of peace, unity, and education, who might be more powerful outside of prison to use his voice to undo some of the damage that he caused. So now the question is this: what's justice? Is it locking a man in a box until he dies of old age? Or is it restoration? Is it redemption? Is it giving a man a chance to make amends, even if it is in his final chapter? I don't have the answers. I'm not going to pretend to. But I do know this: if America can pardon Wall Street criminals who have destroyed entire economies, if it can forgive presidents who lied, cheated, and stole from the people, then why is it that black men never get a chance to change their narrative? So I'm gonna end it like this: Larry Hoover ain't no saint, but he damn sure ain't no devil either. He's a man, fallible, flawed, and 50 years in, and perhaps finally free on the inside. And maybe that's what matters the most. Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.